All right, so Natalie, I want to start here. You know, you guys have months of planning, and now you finally have your team. You guys selected 11 players. How's it feeling?
It's feeling like I can take a breath. I can take a deep, deep breath. Just because there's so much hard work behind the scenes. You know, Ohema, Vanya, our scouts, like we just all collaborated, discussed, and watched a ton of film. Then we did that again, and then we did that again. You know, we just went cycles and cycles, and so it's just kind of great to take a breath, just because we understood how much hard work went behind it. And then once we picked our players, we're like, wow, this is solid. This is a really good team. So we're excited.
Mm-hmm. So you, Ohema, and Vanya were kind of in this interesting position where not only are you guys working together for the first time, but you also have this blank canvas. What was it like learning how to collaborate together? And what have you guys learned about like what it's going to, you know, what you guys are going to need to actually work together in the future?
I think just honestly being vulnerable and being able to be ourselves without killing each other at the same time. Like we're very all strong-minded, which is great, but we're also very open to each other's ideas, you know? And so I think it was about, like I said, collaboration in its own way of having really passionate conversations. But understanding the reason why I like to have passionate conversations is because you have to give me a reason why you really want this player, right? Like stand behind your choice. And so that's what I really enjoyed is like, we just kept going back and forth. And at the end of the day, like we wanted to choose the best players that would fit our culture. So that was important.
Yeah. I mean, honest collaboration is not without real conflict, right? Like that's kind of the reality of these situations. I'm curious, like is there a almost killing each other moment that you can share with us, or a player that maybe she turned you on that maybe you were looking the other direction at first?
There wasn't an exact moment. We just had, I would just say there was going back to the word collaborative, but just going to a bunch of like times where like, you just got to tell me how this person fits, tell me why. So there wasn't like exact moments. It was just like almost every day. Cause then there's some days too, we would just flip the script and be like, hey, actually, I like this. Cause as I like deep dive into the film and I watch more and more, I'm just like, wow, this player can do this rather than what I originally saw from just, you know, being in the W. And so I think it was that. And then they're just like, when did you decide on this player? So it was just, you know, again, being vulnerable, being open, but like you said, honest collaboration. I think that's kind of what we did.
Yeah, I imagine you guys probably had to change your minds a number of different times. I know the rest of us in the media, just with the panoply of number of different options. And, you know, we obviously didn't have the luxury of knowing exactly who was going to be kept off of the list either. But it just felt like there were so many different directions you could have gone in. And on top of that, you also walked into a pretty unique situation where I think most head coaches, they go to a team, somewhat the culture is established, they have a roster. But for you got to basically hand select 11 players. And it really got me thinking, what would you actually need to know about what you want in those scenarios? I'm curious, like, how did you establish a vision about the kind of players that you wanted and the type of culture that you wanted to create without ever having actually been in this position before?
Well, I think I took some pieces, right, from winning back-to-back championships with Becky Hammon and the Las Vegas Aces. Like, you kind of want to, you know, really reflect off of what helped us win that, won the back-to-back. Obviously, I can't copy and paste because I can't take the whole Aces team and just say, hey, you guys put on a Golden State Valkyrie jersey. But just taking the little pieces that I felt made the difference. And so I have been saying these 3 non-negotiables, and I love to say it, but these are 3 that like they can't miss. Like they have to hit all 3. And so the first one, you know, is just being ultra competitive. Like, and I say that like lightly, but like they have to love winning and they have to hate losing. And like, you have to feel it and I have to see it. You know, it's not just one to like, do they just put their head down and like, okay, coach, like next, no, it has to mean something. The second is high character, right? So you have to be willing to sacrifice for the greater good of the team. So you're always putting the team first before self. Like, that's just a staple, like from offense to defense, like everything is team first. And then the third is a never satisfied mindset. Like you have to play like your life depends on it. Like, I think those are really 3 non-negotiables that I look for when I'm looking for players.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I imagine Asia Wilson probably on the protected list. But one player you were able to poach from your former squad was Kate Martin, who I think definitely fits into the mold that you're talking about. But one thing that you said about her that I thought was really interesting was that she is a culture shifter. And I was curious, for somebody who is so young, who is a rookie, going onto a team that had already established a championship culture, what was it about her? Like, what did you see? What was she doing that was actually, elevating a culture that's already pretty elevated?
So funny story, prior to us like diving into Kate, like early on before, because she came early, right before training camp. And as we're talking, I'm like, Kate, you're really mature, for your age. And she goes, well, did you know? She's like, I'm a 6-year. And I'm like, a 6-year? And she goes, yeah, I went to Iowa for 6 years. And so, that's a little bit more seasoned rookie. She's 24 years old. And so, there's maturity if you go to college for 6 years. She learned a lot of hard lessons, but also like you gain so much more experience, especially going to, the finals of how they did their last couple of years. Like those are great experiences and great minutes going into your first year in the W. So that was the thing, is like, she wasn't just a young rookie. And you can tell by the way she does her interviews and everything. She's very aware of herself. Like, I think with the All-Star, remember how she was getting all these votes for All-Star? And she's like, hold on. I'm really not like the All-Star in terms of the talent wise. Like she understands that, right? And she's not afraid to just be honest and be authentic and just be unapologetic for what she really stands for. So that's what I love about Kate, right? Is she's really aware and she's obsessed with learning. And I think those two qualities, like that's a winner's quality right there.
Yeah, you're describing a lot of traits that I think that people would also ascribe to you as well. And I go up and down this roster, right? And I see a lot of, honestly, what people do say about you. And I imagine that some of that is probably natural on some level too. Getting to hand select players, you're going to relate to the characteristics that people describe in you. But it also definitely with Kate, especially just being a player who, you were a walk-on at UCLA. Kate was not somebody who was ranked in high school or anything like that, walked onto the stage when she was drafted. I'm curious how it was that you guys first connected, and if you find yourself gravitating towards players like that in general.
Yeah, actually, that's a great observation. And I guess a lot of people do say like you want players that kind of resemble you in a way. I think that's like low-key, like a secret of all head coaches. But we had obviously to put our eyes on Caitlin. That's just kind of what we did in the off season. And as I'm watching Caitlin, I'm watching Kate. I'm like, who is this girl that number one, she was a great rebounder and she played the post in college. I don't know how many people know that, but she played the post in college. And so she's able to post up, make decisions out of the post, but she's also can space out for the three. So to me, that's like, those are really great skill sets that not everyone can have. And she just always brought this energy towards her. Like every time, like the camera, you would just find Kate, right? Because she was either always trying to go get the ball or dive for the ball or block the ball. Like she's always trying to do something. And so just, as we were watching, Caitlin, we're just like, wow, this girl is just someone that you want to play with and who does all the little things. And so I think that's kind of how she caught my eye. And then when her name was still there, we're all like, because we were texting Becky like early on about her, like a bunch of us staff. And then when she came up, we're like, Becky, she's still there. Like, she's still there. Like, let's get her. You won't be disappointed. Trust me. Like, you just, have to see her play, and not have to see her play, but like meet her too. Cause I think I watched a couple of her interviews and I'm like, she sounds like such a great team player,
Yeah. This is somebody who kind of stepped into every possible role that was required of her, whether she was defending, whether she was rebounding, playing small, playing the four. And I know that, you guys talked a lot about defensive versatility. That's something that you guys want. But one thing that I thought was really interesting was I was, just in your post-expansion press conference interview, I think somebody asked you about Kayla Thornton and her physicality and her size. And you kind of made it clear that you hadn't actually mentioned anybody's size up until that point in the interview. What you liked about her was her high IQ, her ability to space, her willingness to move the ball, quick decisions, passing, and also just the heart that you have to play at such a high level with a high motor so consistently. And I thought that was really interesting. I wonder if you kind of, especially with your experience, see that as a bit of a market inefficiency. We do sometimes think a little bit too much about, okay, what's their wingspan, their weight, all these things,
Yeah. As working in the NBA for 10 years and then, going on my fourth with the W, like the things that you hear with what scouts like and don't like. But I always come down to like, you can't measure your heart, so why are we evaluating, like you just said, the wingspan, the height? Like I could, go down the line with how many players have such a big heart. And those are the ones that I'm super attracted to. Like, look, I'm 5'1" 3/4. I'm not 5'2". I'm 5'1" 3/4. And so like, who would ever thought I would ever start for UCLA? Like nobody, everyone would bet against me. So yeah, I think sometimes just the will, the size of your heart, and then also like high IQ. Like that was one of the things that my dad taught me, like when I was really young. He's like, okay, look, you're not going to be the biggest. You're never going to be the strongest. You're never going to block shots. But he's just like, how can you be the smartest player on the court? And so that's what I take, true value of in a player.
Mm-hmm. Was it hard to have people kind of doubt you or to, I know you've always been pretty audacious with maybe what other people would call audacious with your goals, just saying, originally that you wanted to be an NBA head coach. I imagine sometimes you got a reaction to that was a little bit surprised. Surprise can be good. It can be bad, but I'm curious how you navigated that.
Yeah, I like doubters. I love people who doubt me. I don't know. It's just been something since I was at a young age. Like I love to prove people wrong. It might be something sick in my head. But yeah, like I've kind of gone through these stages where I'll like set my goal and then people just love to give me their opinion, even if I don't even ask for it. And so it's kind of like social media. And,
right.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, good. Tell me that I can't do it. Tell me I can't go to UCLA. Tell me I can't play pro. Tell me I can't coach in the NBA. Like I can go on, and it just adds fuel to my fire. I'm just like, great, good. Like watch me do it. I can do it because again, like it's going here, the size of my heart, what's in my head, and like the work ethic that is 100% controllable. Your work ethic. And so when my dad taught me how to work really, really hard at a young age, I was just like, oh, my dad actually trained me for everything I think that kind of has been happening in my life. And so I'm just really fortunate. I had like really great, parents and role models when I was young.
That's really cool. I imagine, like, do you find yourself thinking about him more these days with everything that you're doing right now?
I think about him every day. I'm just going to be honest, especially like when I'm away from my family, like especially like I'm in New York right now. Those are the moments when like I feel really super far from my family. Like I just want to give him a call. And so, I will just sometimes just sit in my room by myself and turn everything off and then just have a conversation with him. Like I just miss chatting and, like having those like honest conversations, but because like he always shot it to me straight. You know what I mean? Whether it was like I was complaining, I was venting or whatever, he's just like, Natalie, just suck it up, suck it up, and, like just keep it pushing, keep believing in yourself. And so like it's kind of like been a cycle kind of in my head when I'm kind of far away from home.
Yeah. What's he telling you these days?
Believe in myself. Just believe in myself. He always says like block out the noise is kind of one way, but he always would say like never give a F about what people think about you, and then just keep going. Yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that. I guess another somewhat emotional question here. I know that it obviously has to be very special to be the first Asian American head coach of a WNBA team, but I'm curious, is there anything hard about being the first? No, I don't think so. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. It's just kind of happens for me. I don't like intentionally say like, I want to be the first, Asian American to play professional basketball or, whatever records that I ended up doing back in the day. I just follow my heart. I love basketball. My dad, again, like that was our passion. I kind of called it our love language. And so, yeah, it's kind of what I grew up loving, and it's kind of all I love to do. And I think I actually like enjoy it too, because I know like it would make my dad really, really proud. And like, I know all the time that my dad and my mom like invested in me into training basketball, watching basketball, taking me to my games. Like, this is kind of my give back to them. It's just like, look, everything that you guys sacrificed for me, I'm trying to, make you guys proud just because of all the time and love and support they invested in me.
That's really cool. It feels like you're also really rooted in the game. Like, it just seems like it is something that has always been a part of you. Obviously, if you know your story, we know that about you. But it also, I guess, it strikes me as a little bit unique as well. Or I guess it differs from my own experiences. Like, I went to basketball as a rebellion. You know what I mean? Like, it was like the opposite of what my parents wanted me to do. They're very cool. They're very supportive. But I have to tell you a story. I know we ran into each other a couple years ago. I think it was after the Aces won their first title. I was walking down Santa Monica, and I was with my mom. She was visiting me, and after we ran into each other, I was just telling her about you, and, you're a WNBA assistant coach, and you'd worked in the NBA and all of that. And she's just amazed, right? Like, she's just like, what? Like, this 5'1", 5'2" Asian woman is putting these like 7-foot tall players into drills, these WNBA players into drills, like, and they listen to her. That's so cool. And I also think like she grew up in a culture that made her feel self-conscious about her height as well. So she was just glowing. Like, she was so inspired. And she's just like, that's amazing. I'm curious, like, do you get to have those moments with people?
Those like aha moments of like,
yeah, just for you, like for them to see you and just be like, oh, like that's doable. That's a thing that happens.
Yeah. It's just humbling because like I said, like, I never like go out and say, I want to be the first to do this, or I want to, like, it's just, everything's just coming from my heart and my passion. But when I actually get to meet someone like that, and it does like give them motivation or inspiration, like, it's just super humbling. Like, yeah. I'm almost like, I just want to shake them and be like, you can do it too. Like,
right. Yeah.
You can, if you're, I'm just upset. Okay. Low key, I'm obsessive. Like, I am obsessive about basketball. I'm an obsessive worker. And so I think when you just put those two together, like, I'm kind of the end result. Like, I'm just super focused on whenever I set a goal too, then I know how to focus in on it. Like, I don't get distracted. I don't care about a lot of things other than my goal. So I would say like, that's what I do to be in the position that I am, but anybody can do this.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, anyone can. It's just that you have to, be obsessive.
Well, even when I look at your team, like I see you, I see Ohema, another trailblazer. I see how diverse this team is in terms of experiences overseas. There are a lot of foreign players, different ages also. And also it just kind of seems like a reflection of actually being open-minded and trying to figure out where the best talent is. At least that's what I see. Was there a point, like, I know you guys have 7 international players and you said, hey, it's not like we intentionally went out and did that, but I guess through the process of selection, were you guys noticing any through lines?
Well, I mean, just really honest, like, it was a time for all 3 of us to be super creative and intentional, right? Rather than, okay, yeah, we could study other expansion teams, but like, why not take what I learned from the Aces, take what Ohema learned from the Liberty, take what Vanya learned from the London Lions. We all were part of a championship culture. So why not put that all together and create our own roster of what we feel is going to win, and not try to go back in history and copy, everyone else's stories. Like, why not write our own story? So that's what we really did, is like, we came together and we're like, okay, Nat, what are your 3 non-negotiables as players? What does your culture look like? Okay. And then I said, okay, go find those players. And then they would come with the list, right? And then again, after the list, we would discuss and then just go watch a ton of film on these players. And it literally became this, again, like this cycle of breakdown and tough conversations. But we knew exactly, like, they had to have those 3 non-negotiables. And I think those are the players that we ended with. And that's why I'm so excited, is because they do hold those 3 non-negotiables.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a blank canvas. You do have the opportunity to build exactly what you want to. So why not see how that goes, right?
Yeah. Like, why not follow exactly what we learned, which not a lot of people can say that they've come from a championship culture, right? Or a championship organization. And so we got to value those things, and also, like, I'm big too with like availability, like with players too. Like, the league next year, we have 44 games. So let's make sure we got some healthy players coming in. That's a big thing. We're getting more games. They extended the playoffs. And so for me, like, even myself too, like, I ended my career early because I got hurt. Okay. Why, Natalie? Well, because I would push through my injuries. So let's really think about what does each player's availability looks like, And then not to put some pressure on our medical, but just also hire a great medical staff, because that's going to be important. You know, all these little details from what we learned are going to be really important.